give you a ticket for that $10. Today's rally is designed as after the old-time concept of stump speaking and is not a forum nor a debate. Each candidate will be allowed 5 minutes to introduce themselves and lay out their platform. An additional 5 minutes has been allotted for questions, which I will moderate. Time will be strictly observed by our timekeeper, Ms. Phoebe Spangler, in the back of the room. Will be time for both the stump speech and the Q&A session. If the candidates will look toward the back of the atrium where a green light will switch on, show them Commissioner of Agriculture. First up is Ms. Marguerite Green. I'll let her introduce herself.
Thank you so much, Sally. As you mentioned, I'm Marguerite Green. I'm a farmer and I'm also a candidate for Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry. And I'm so excited to be in this race because I think I'm in a unique position. I'm not running against something I hate, I'm actually running to protect something I love. And I think there's a lot of power in that. And the thing that I love is the agriculture and forestry industries of Louisiana. Like I said, I'm a farmer, and when I graduated LSU for agriculture, I found that being a farmer in this state and this country is a lot more difficult than I realized it was going to be. Right now we have a problem in our entire country where farmers aren't able to make a living in a reasonable way that also reconciles itself with our environment. And so that's why I am running on a platform that I call Food, Farms, Climate, and Cannabis. What that means is that I believe in this state, food doesn't move through our communities equitably. We don't see that people are able to get the same access to healthy local food in different communities, and we need to be working on that. The Department of Ag and Forestry has the ability to advocate on a federal level for better SNAP and WIC programs that serve our communities but also serve our farmers by directing those SNAP and WIC dollars towards farmers at farmers markets. I have a track record of pursuing federal funding from the USDA in order to get beginning farmer and rancher development program grants. And I believe that we need to be doing a better job of boosting up food-producing farmers, small and mid-sized farmers, and larger farmers that are incentivizing doing the right thing with the environment to produce food for our communities. I am also running on a climate change platform. I believe that climate change is one of the most severe things facing Louisiana, and not just South Louisiana. When I'm down here with y'all in the south part of the state, everybody knows what I'm talking about when I talk about climate change. The Office of Soil and Water Conservation in the department is a perfect place to fight climate change and coastal erosion. The office can revegetate our coast and start an entire new wetlands nursery industry that actually brings more wealth to people in green industries in Louisiana. We can do a lot in non-point source pollution, right? And that's what happened to our seafood industry recently, where runoff from farms was polluting our waterways and continuing to kill our coast and our seafood industries. There's a lot of climate change work we can do through this department. And remember, it's the Department of Agriculture and Forestry. Forestry covers 50% of the state of Louisiana, and trees are one of the most successful ways to fight climate change by capturing carbon. They also are sources of renewable natural resources if you use them in ways that are creative and appropriate. So we can actually be part of developing green industries that bring jobs to our people and bring a better economy to our state, but also are reconciled with the environment. I'm so excited about the ability for the department to do that. And lastly, I am running on a platform of the legalization of cannabis for adult use. The reason that I'm doing that is that I believe that our citizens are ready for it, but I also believe that we'll be able to increase the tax base and bring a lot of revenue to the state of Louisiana. I think it's something that'll build financial health for our state. And also, you know, when the Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry works with parishes, with legislators, and with our budget to show that there is a reason economically that we can legalize cannabis and we can help push that through on a state level, then we'll also be able to address the criminal justice element of cannabis. So right now we know that Black and brown communities are policed in some parishes at an 11 times higher rate than white communities are that smoke the same amount of marijuana. And that's inequitable, and only when we have full legalization are we able to address that. If we stay in a medical system, we're not able to do the work of beginning to undo that inequity. And so I really believe that we are ready for that change here in the state, and polling suggests that you all agree. So I'm excited to be here with you all, and in closing, I have been endorsed by the state AFL-CIO as well as the state Democratic Party, along with my other 2 Democratic candidates. So I'm excited to take questions from you all as well. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Cannabis and sativa, or whatever that stuff is, however it's put down, is a gateway drug. It's been a gateway drug for years, 64 years old. And I'm amazed at how people so cavalierly want to go ahead and legalize it for dollars. I think that it's hard. And I think what it's going to do, is just my opinion, I'm going to say this and I'm going to sit down, it's going to create more crime eventually in disadvantaged areas already. So I'm sorry that you're running on that campaign. And if it's something that you can justify in the communities, where more of those children are in jail because of the disparity that we discussed, then I appreciate knowing.
Absolutely, I appreciate your point of view, and I've heard it a little bit, and I understand it. My own mother actually has hesitations about it as well. What we know from looking at data, which is all we can do, right? We can look into our own lives and see things that happen, but we can also look at kind of data that's been found in communities that have legalized cannabis. And one of the things that we find is that children actually experiment with it less in communities where it's legalized because there is no longer a black market. The other thing about that is that if we're able to have a system of tracking it, then a black market disappears, and we don't have people who are being able to use it in ways that are, happening maybe under the radar. So if we can actually create systems where people can responsibly choose to use something that in a lot of cases, even if someone doesn't have a license, is still a medical use. We see people who use cannabis for anxiety and depression, who maybe don't have a license, but that is part of their life. And we certainly have young people who abuse it, but that's not going to go away. We have that whether we have legalization or not. In fact, if we have legalization, we're better able to see that problem and track it through our communities. And additionally, we know that cannabis is one of the most effective tools in getting people off of opioids, which, though it might be a gateway drug, it's well researched to help people get off heroin and fentanyl. And I think that those are devastating drugs to those same communities that you're talking about. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Well, again, we're going to do, and we do appreciate your comment too, but we're going to do what we did before. I'm sure you'll be willing to talk individually, okay? Then we'll take the next question. Yes.
Thank you so much. The question is to where you're from?
In New Orleans East.
In New Orleans East. Have you been in the Acadiana area as it relates to farming?
I have not. No, I'm from the Orleans Parish area.
Just to let you know, in Louisiana, and I'm not a farmer anymore. My grandfather was, and my father. The farming difficulties in Acadiana area, in the area outside of New Orleans, is totally different. So the suggestion would be to come and kind of investigate some of the issues and problems.
I think maybe I misspoke. I have not been a farmer in Acadiana because I am from Orleans. I spend actually about half of my time with Acadiana farmers. So I work with farmers over here a lot. I work with farmers in the north, but I would say actually my time is sort of divided between south and southwest Louisiana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, spent a lot of time with cane farmers down here. So.
Yeah. And in fact, I met Marguerite through a close friend of mine who was my roommate when I was an undergraduate, who is an urban farmer, so here in this area. Okay, another question for Marguerite? Over there.
Hey, Marguerite. Just a real quick recap on how do we stop pain burning?
How do we stop what?
Pain burning.
Pain burning.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, since we started talking about this as a topic, right, when we're talking about the release of carbon into the atmosphere, which is what accelerates climate change, one of the things is that we're burning residue on farms. We're burning residue and throwing residue away in lots of operations, but cane burning in fields is one of the main ways that we're releasing carbon. There's an amazing product that is that exists called Biochar. And what biochar is we have the ability to turn coal-producing machines. This is absolutely 100% like sound science. The only reason we don't do this right now is because we don't do this right now. We can turn the residue of plants, the residue of clothing, the residue of even tires into biochar that can then be reinvested into our soil as a soil conditioner on large-scale agriculture. This is not some small urban farming technique. And we can trap that carbon that we could be releasing into the environment. We can trap it in our soil and make our soil healthier. Again, the only reason we're not doing this on a large scale is just that we haven't done it yet. And it's creative thinking like that that can help us in the climate crisis and use agriculture as a tool. The other thing that we can do is be incentivizing carbon farming. So carbon farming is the practice of having farmers actually track the amount of carbon that they're sequestering in the soil rather than releasing it to the environment, and pay them for that through carbon credit trading. It's something that, again, is very well documented. It's happening all over the country, and the only reason we're not doing it in Louisiana is just that we're not doing it in Louisiana.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you, Marguerite. Also running for Commissioner of Agriculture, and this is Mr. Peter Williams.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Peter Williams, running for Commissioner of Agriculture. I'm originally from Kaplan, Louisiana. I grew up in the rural communities of Kaplan, graduated from Kaplan High School. I'm one of the only candidates, or the only candidate that graduated from USF. Back in 1980, I was the first upward bound student with Mr. James Caillé and Mr. Robert Carmouche back in 1976. I didn't need to Google my way here. I know my way around here. From Kaplan, Brain, Gaydon, Robridge, Dusson, New Iberia, Youngsville, Grand Coteau, Sunset. So when it comes to understanding rural communities, when I graduated from high school, I became the first director at Martin Luther King Center in Truman. I also taught school at Truman Elementary. The reason I taught at Truman was to get the connectability that you talked about by having the parents during the daytime and the students in the afternoon. That gave me a cohesiveness. I was mentored by Reverend A.J. McKnight, Mr. Alfred Maxill, Mr. Janelle Shagwell, Mr. Joe Dennis, and if you know those folks, civil rights and activism has always been prevalent. My background, I'm a tree farmer. I collect acorns. I do conservation in wetlands. I've also been an advocate for 35 years for civil rights for farmers, inner cities, and rural communities. I specialize in agriculture, health, housing, education, and transportation. Bringing it back to Lafayette, I knew when the Walmart opened in 1984. I was hurt when it closed. But I'm also glad to stand here today that I came to Lafayette, met with the PI group, and we put together a vision for that Walmart called the Black Farmers Research Development Facility for industrialized hemp. The state of Louisiana has already fought the medical marijuana and the recreational marijuana fight. They passed the medical marijuana bill. Now they're working on getting that in for health and treatment. The industrialized hemp can make 4,000 different components. I've also sat on the rice boards and I've talked to the folks from Kaplan to Gaydon to all around. Cuba was the biggest rice buyer of brown rice for Vermilion Parish, Acadia, St. Landry, and this area, and it stopped in 1988. I lobbied with farmers and folks from Washington, D.C. to ask President Obama to go to Cuba and try and reopen those doors for farming. If you remember vividly, the current Commissioner of Agriculture went on a whole entourage with a whole bunch of senators and congressmen from Louisiana going to Cuba to sell rice again as a new market. Once the new administration came in, that disappeared. Agriculture should not be political. Our farmers are struggling because of two things: natural disasters, which is man. Natural disasters, which are the floods, the hurricanes, and the storms, but the biggest disaster right now is the tariffs. What I propose as Commissioner of Agriculture, to utilize that office to reach out in those 5 components, to touch folks in these rural areas and identify them. It is no way an office that has $78 million budget, 570 jobs, people in this area and rural communities and other areas do not know the function of the Commissioner of Agriculture's office. That is ludicrous. But the reason it's like that is because you have politicians, both Democrat and Republican, sit on the sideline, play golf, and they give you the money from New Orleans to Baton Rouge, and they forget about us in these rural areas. My family still live in Cali. My family and friends still live in the Lafayette and Acadia area. I don't need you to be able to reach me because I know how to reach you. Sometimes you have to understand, like the Bible says, where your treasures are, that's where your heart is. My heart is in Acadiana. My heart is in rural communities. My heart is in inner city. My heart is in Fairness. I grew up in Kaplan, and I graduated from USL. Acadiana is different from every other region in the state. And the problem is, the status quo and the people who's supposed to be in charge have played games with our lives. Northside didn't die because it died on its own. It died because the leadership lost the love from where they are. But from the Commissioner of Agriculture standpoint, we could reconnect with Northside and do dual enrollment education program where they could get scholarships to Southern and other universities in agriculture and forestry. You could tap into the infrastructure for the water problems which come from soil and water conservation with USDA. Problem with this particular administration has no intergovernmental relationships. They don't even talk to the governor. They don't even call and consult the governor. A divided house can't stand. And until you have someone in the Commissioner's Agriculture office that can unify, not because of party, but because of priorities, we'll always be in the same position we in. And I got a little thing I say. When you have your own firewood, you get as warm as you want. Acadiana been waiting for other people to warm them too long. It's time to get somebody who you know to bring us the firewood so we get it all warm. Thank you. Peter Williams, number 25, Commissioner of Agriculture. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Okay. Wait, don't go anywhere. Okay, any questions? Any questions from Mr. Williams?
I want to commend you on your passion and your drive, because when you win commissioner, you'll be more compassionate. But wherever you go, you have that drive for farmers. And I can remember you helping 2 of my uncles in the sugarcane world and really getting them to understand all the bureaucracy in Washington. So I thank you for that, and continue to help those and be that voice for those that are feeding us, really, and taking care of us through agriculture.
Thank you.
Would you like to comment on that?
Yes, and also, I've always been working with our communities. Matter of fact, with Smile Community Action Agency, they have the mission of helping the poor folks, the indigenous families. The Bible says the poor will be with us always, but will our love for the poor continue to be with us? That Democratic Party is the people that strives to help people. We need to pick up and rethink our vision of who we really are as a people. Because when I go to bed at night, I was a young man, and you know what I remember? John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I was a small young man, and I realized when Martin Luther King said, I have a dream speech, I grew up in a single mother home, and I went to tell my mom, one day you won't have to prove who I am. I'm going to be somebody. And you have to understand, I'm an advocate. You need an advocate to stand in the gap for Louisiana. We have tough times. We know what's going on in Washington. This is not time for a who's who of America. This is not time to get a few things off the internet and to come and make it be a platform. It's time to understand the real deal. And guess what? If you don't know the rules of the game, you don't even need to play. And I'm telling you, it's serious out here, and you need a serious candidate, and you're looking at it, Peter Williams, number 25.
Anything else? Okay, we have another question back here. Let's get the microphone back in the back.
Do you have a plan to stop cane burning?
First of all, cane burning, just like growing sugar cane and all of the plants that process the sugar cane, was grandfathered in way in the 60s. When you stop the sugar cane burning, you have to first go to the lobbyists who let the processor burn. A commissioner of agriculture cannot stop nothing. We are regulators. It has to be first voted on by the Congress, voted on by the senators, signed by the governor. Second of all, sugarcane burning is only a process of hurrying up to transfer to the next crop. If you would get the sugarcane co-op to say, okay, we want you to reduce sugarcane burning and we want you to tell us why it's so important to burn, they might come to the table. But you know what? Nobody never asked them. How many sugarcane farmers in Youngsville? 6, 7, 8,000 acres of sugarcane. So controlled burn is part of a planting process. And until we use the new technology that Ms. Green was talking about, they're going to always burn sugarcane. You want me to tell you what's the problem? All of us in here can say we're going to grow sugarcane tomorrow. You know what they're going to tell us? We can't. Well, why you can't? Because there's a co-op that controls who grows it, who sells it, and who buys it. So to answer your question, as a commissioner, I'm not going to stand here to tell you I can stop controlled burning, but I tell you what I can do. I can put it in for every acre of sugar cane you burn, plant me 2 acres of trees, and let's offset that carbon credit problem. Okay?
I understand that, but that's not the problem. The problem is I agree, and I live in New Iberia, so it's a problem.
It is. It's a problem for everyone.
So I would ask that you think
I would advocate for it.
I would advocate.
That's all I can do. And I'm not afraid, as you see, I'm not afraid to ask questions. And all they have to do, and I'm not afraid to help find a solution. And that would be the first thing at every other forum that I go to, I'm going to bring up the question about sugarcane burning.
There's a lot of other people that have respiratory problems.
Well, let's go to another step. There's a lot of older families that can't take the dust from the crop dusters. We have a 24-hour fly thing that the crop dusters are supposed to tell us when they're spraying over our schools. They don't do that. I have folks in the rural communities that tell me the kids can't play recess because they're next to a sugarcane field and the crop dusters come and spray them. Those are regulatory problems. So why are the regulators of the department not doing it? Why? Because they're playing golf with them, they're sitting in the Superdome with them, and they're probably doing other things with them. But as your commissioner, I will take care of people first and let the rest of the things take care of themselves.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you will. Yes, and the next group of people up, our next group of speakers are some of those folks who can help us with some of this, and that's for our legislature. Okay, and I'll say also that 2009, I finished my master's degree. I wrote a thesis on sugarcane, and they do things the way they do now because they've done it for 200 years. That's what they will tell you. Okay, so we need the people who are in the position to help them make these changes let them know that it's more economical, it's more cost efficient, and it's better for the planet if they start doing things the way we should do in 2019 and 20 and 21 and on into the 21st century. Thank you. I'm going to call the first legislative candidate up here, and that is running for a state representative in District 43, Miss Leslie Bourque. Okay, Leslie, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you.
And then we'll do questions after another 5. Okay.
It's a little nerve-wracking following him and his passion. But first of all, thank you for having us here. This is pretty incredible. My name is Leslie Bourque, and I am running for State House Rep in District 43. I am born and raised in Lafayette, Louisiana. When I was 26, I moved away to Los Angeles to broaden my horizons, and that is where I met my guy. He is an actor, and we then moved to New York, and I followed his career and supported him. We've traveled back and forth from Los Angeles to New York, and eventually decided that we wanted to settle down in one place. With much deliberation, we chose in 2016 to come back to my hometown of Lafayette. Basically, we just wanted for my kids to know up close the beauty of Cajun country. One of the things when we used to visit, Dylan would always comment and admire the quality of life here in Lafayette. It was something that he really, really loved, and I can only explain it as he liked the spirit of the people. Once we moved here and got settled in, we soon realized that this quality of life was not exactly what it fell short in some ways. And what was important to us, Louisiana undeniably had problems. We are lacking in, we have a broken education system. We have dilapidating roads and bridges. And in my district, we have a very real concern about drainage. So one of the things that I did when we moved here is I decided, what could I do to affect change? And I rolled up my sleeves and I got to work. I partnered with women in the community, and we began raising awareness on issues that affect society, ranging from criminal justice reform, sexual harassment, homelessness, mental illness, and children's programs in public schools that were being defunded. Through this work, I sort of got a lens of what our elected officials were doing to address these issues, and I learned early on that the elected officials were not so much addressing the issues from the needs of the people or the needs of constituents, but from their needs of their own personal political parties. And as a state representative, I will work relentlessly to raise the quality of life for my family and for your family, because I believe that Louisiana deserves this. My only agenda is Louisiana. My priority issue is education. I believe that if we invest in education, everything else trickles down from there. I believe teachers should get more than a $1,000 raise, and a legislator that votes for a $1,000 bump one time is not good in my book. I believe that we have major flood drainage problems in my district, and legislators need to work together to find sustainable solutions so that we can have a dry and prosperous area for our next generation to come. I believe that we need smarter investments for problems that arise before, instead of spending so much money on emergency fixes. I definitely believe in transparency in government, and I will do my very best to ensure that our tax dollars are spent wisely. And I will do this because I am not bought by any group. I will get to the bottom of why we are paying a lot of money in taxes, and where it's being allocated to. Because at this point, connecting the dots, it just doesn't make sense. I am a mom, and I feel that this has equipped me with compassion and experience to fix real problems in this district. And I feel that Baton Rouge actually needs a little bit more of this at this time. I am running for State House Representative because I feel that as our democracy, we always need choices on the ballot. The fact that my opponent has ran 2 terms with no opposition, and I don't feel like anyone that's looking to hold an office should get a free ride. I will hold my opponent accountable for his voting record and his not voting record. And I feel like District 43 needs a voice and it needs a choice. And I'll just add a little side note that my district is a very red district. And I don't know why a Democrat hasn't stepped up. There's lots of seats right now that could be flipped, and we're just not stepping up. I feel that even though, Stephen Hanmark I talked to before I was thinking about running, and he told me how much of an uphill battle this would be. And I still thought about it, and I still decided to run because I feel like as Democrats, if we don't put our name in the ring, then we're never going to see change that we want. So.
Very good. Leslie is absolutely right. We should never have an unopposed candidate out there, especially if they're Republican, okay? Leslie's done the right thing, and I want to know if anybody out there has a question to ask Leslie before she sits down. We have over here, Al has a question. Wait for the microphone, Al. Hold on. No, we can't hear you, but we can.
Okay, I've seen something about a debate between you and the Republicans. Is that going anywhere, or I'm just curious?
Right. Well, that's been interesting for sure. A person had contacted me via Facebook and asked if we would want to debate, and I said yes. My opponent then must have heard this and called me up and said he wanted to debate, and he wanted me to pick the time, and he would pick the place. The place that he chose, I was actually okay with. It's a very conservative, known place, but I said we needed to both agree on the moderator. And we both got this long message from the owner of this place, and he was going to be the moderator. He is not known to favor progressive people. So then I do what I normally do. I reach out to Facebook and I say, hey guys, we're going to have this debate. Would like some input. My team had decided, had thought of doing it at Como High School, which is the only public high school in our district, and they have the #1 debate team. So we kind of thought getting the kids involved. So I sent that out via email to my opponent, and he has not responded. I've heard since that Como might not be, they might not be able to do that at political, because it's a voting. I'm not sure, but I haven't gotten confirmation. So he hasn't responded in over a month. So I'm not sure if he really wants to debate. Maybe he was calling my bluff. Maybe I don't know. But that's where we're at with that.
Well, I'm a little confused about the current districts myself. I have to admit I'm going to spend some time with the maps, but the South Side Library isn't in your district, is it? Is there a library at all over there? The Youngsville?
Youngsville, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, Youngsville's kind of
Well, you could do one that's
yeah,
close,
right.
And the libraries allow the forums, right? League of Women Voters has been conducting a series of forums at the public libraries, and those are always good places to do. So maybe pick the closest one to y'all's district.
Well, I don't know. Him not responding, I kind of have put it in his court. And,
Any other questions? And then one behind you too, Peggy. You first.
I have a question about because I know I see you posting a lot about this. I think it's the ITES board, right? If these exemptions to corporations, because I think for years they've been coming in and raping Louisiana and leaving us with nothing, and not paying their taxes. Because I see how successful Texas
Well, first of all, I mean, I'll just start out with this. First of all, you can't be bought by groups that don't have the best interests in Louisiana. And I've learned so much about this. I have a very conservative district, so I've talked to a lot of Republicans, mostly Republicans, and it's really been interesting because once you take off your political party hats, you're able to get on the same page, and most of our problems locally and on a state level are not about party, drainage, education. This is real life stuff. But ITAP, it's kind of tricky because I do want fairness, and I just would also like corporate responsibility. And if we're giving you 10 years of tax exemption, then you need to create jobs, create revenue. And when I say jobs, I mean jobs in Louisiana. They've been known to take, people from Florida or other places and say we're creating jobs. It is an important program and board, and it's not like I would want them to ever not exempt, but just a fairness, because those taxes go to education and roads.
Okay, one more question.
Yeah, mine's more of a comment and maybe something for you to go after Bishop on, because the worst thing that I've heard him doing this past legislative session was a bill. I always forget the numbers of bills. Someone may remember the number of bills.
It's Doug something.
There's always a number, but it was a bill to let corporations do their own private environmental quality reports and claim them as private proprietary information. So the bill failed somehow, but I'm told that there are ways that these bills can be reintroduced. And I actually had to sell this to my League of Women Voters board at our summer retreat in July, and people were initially sort of skeptical. Isn't it private information? And I said, no, I'm not asking that corporations who make the plastic determine the formula for plastic. I just want the information that the public around the plastic plant needs to know about whether it's harming their health. So we actually ended up putting a question in the Attorney General candidate pack, so we'll see if Landry even bothers to answer. He's the one who's being very narrow in his interpretation of Louisiana records law. There was a Maryland environmental organization that wanted information and said, no, it's Louisiana records law is only for Louisiana organizations. So the way we framed it was, do you support the idea that corporations, the documents that they file, they're required to file by the state for public purposes, should be publicly accessible? For me, I mean, it's an informational thing. We as citizens can't even get the information that we need to protect ourselves. There's a real problem in democracy. So I hope maybe you can go after.
Well, I'll tell you this, the bill failed on the House floor by Republicans and Democrats because it's a dangerous bill. And I've spoken to, like I said, a lot of Republicans in the oil field, and I mean, not even Republicans, people in the oil field. And one in particular was a geologist, so I got a different kind of bird's eye view of the oil and gas from there. And I told him about this bill, and he was shocked because he said that it's regulated for a reason, not by yourself. If there's a sheen in the water, a sheen on the water, somebody from above is going to come and tell you you need to clean this up. So to let our own self-interest audit and regulate itself isn't really good.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you so much. Okay, next speaker, Ms. Quinta Thompson. Is Ms. Thompson here? Come on up. Ms. Thompson is running for State Representative District 31. What? Quinta. How do I say your name? Quinta. Quinta. Right, okay. Okay. Quinta, you'll have 5 minutes and then we'll take 5 minutes of questions.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Puente Thompson. I'm running for State Representative in District 31, which is South Lafayette into Maurice, Milton area and Vermilion Parish. I heard Leslie speak about her platform being a lot about education, so is mine. I'm actually a teacher, not here in Lafayette, but I'm a teacher at Westgate High School in New Iberia. And I see how we're failing these students. You know, I have a student who will come to me who is in 9th grade and they barely have a 2nd grade education. Our schools are too concerned about testing. They're too concerned about everything else but teaching our children. And that is one of the reasons why our industries here are declining. Not every student is meant to go to college. Not everybody wants to go to college. And we need people in a broad spectrum, not just college-bound students. So it's really important that we invest in our schools to make sure our kids are coming out, if they're not wanting to go to college, that they're job ready. And we have those jobs here for them so that they don't have to move away. One of the big problems with giving these large companies all these tax exemptions are that they're coming here just for that period of time and then leaving. We need to stop that. We need to stop the bleeding of our tax dollars, the bleeding of our industry, the bleeding of our labor. It really needs to stop. I think this is just something that's common sense. And I'm baffled that our legislatures aren't doing something about it. I think they're too worried about their future in these industries rather than Louisiana's future. I am definitely about infrastructure. We have ridiculous amounts of flooding. We have had flooding just for a day of rain. It makes no sense that our drainage is so poor. It hurts everyone. You know, personally, my neighborhood doesn't flood. I'm grateful for that, but we can't leave my neighborhood when it floods elsewhere. So if I need to get to a grocery store, I'm just out of luck. If I have an emergency, I'm out of luck. Because not only can I not get out, but emergency vehicles can't get into me. It makes no sense. I'm just running a common sense platform. Do what's best for us. Do what's best for all of us, not just some. I'm running number 63 on the ballot, and that's about all I have to say. So if any questions come my way.
This will absolutely be my last question. But when we go to big businesses to entice them to come to Louisiana, I just want to know why there is no exit strategy built in for all those good graces that they were willing to take on the front end. Okay? They do it and then they just leave us. Not just Lafayette City, Lafayette Parish, Youngsburg, Milton, Perrysburg, all of them. You know, you ride around town, you see these ugly buildings that these big corporations, I'm not talking about mom and pop, leave. And I'm just curious, what, if we elected you for state representative, how would you address that issue?
Well, one of the reasons why these businesses leave, they say they can't find who they need here. So that's one of the things linking in with education. If we get our young people to be skilled to fill these jobs, they won't have to look elsewhere. We also need to include in those tax incentives we're giving them that they need to hire Louisiana people. And a certain percentage of those executive jobs have to come here too. Because a lot of times what you'll find in the oil industry, even though Lafayette is the hub city, is that we have a lot of people working in the oil field, they work offshore, they might work in the galleys and all that stuff, but the executives are in Houston. So I'm getting tax dollars here from somebody who's making $50,000. It's a good salary. But Texas is getting tax dollars from somebody who's making $500,000. So that's not fair because you're coming here, like I said, you're building a building and then you're leaving and we're stuck with this ugly eyesore in our community. It's not fair. So instead of just saying, hey, you come here and we'll give you these tax breaks for 10 years, how about saying you'll get those tax breaks on the back end? After you've been here for 10 years, we'll give you 10 years of tax breaks. So we'll keep you here for 20 years. And we'll have the people here trained so well that you won't want to leave. And with that industry, with people getting those better jobs, other businesses are going to come too, because we're going to need people to feed, clothe, and house. I'm always amazed that I see new developments coming up all around Louisiana, especially here in the Lafayette area, and I'm like, who's moving here? Who's buying these houses? And it's those people who are coming here for those big jobs, but not our people. I have no problem with people coming here, but we want to also keep our families here. I'm from New Iberia, born and raised. I moved to the big city of Lafayette to go to college. After I was done with USL, I traveled around and I found I like living in Lafayette. So I came back here. And I want other people to see that. Not only that we have great industry, but we have great people. I've talked to people about moving here because it's a great place to raise your family. Leslie said they came back because there's no other place like here. We're all a community. We have all these wonderful festivals. We have all this wonderful food. I'd be skinny if I left Lafayette. I really would be. And so we need to do more things to not only get them to come, entice them to come, but entice them to stay.
Do we have any more questions for Ms. Thompson? I want to remind everybody that Quinta is running for Nancy Landry's former seat. Now, Nancy is time limited, but I think most of you, or a lot of you, realize some of the damage that Nancy was able to do while she was in the legislature. So I want to commend Ms. Thompson for stepping up. Up is State Representative District 45, Ms. Rhonda Gleason.
We're wired. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Got 5 minutes. I'm Rhonda Gleason. I am running for state legislative seat number 45. I'm a Democrat. So yay, look at this wonderful group. We've been making it through the whole day. We're still here. You guys know, a lot of you know me. I'm a third-generation educator in Lafayette Parish. I have been hustling the legislature for 7 years, several sessions in now. When we talk about the protocol in Baton Rouge, number one, as Christy knows, you need to know where the restrooms are. You need to make your way around the buildings, through the halls, but then you also have to know where to find those legislators that we've elected. They're not always sitting in their seats during the committee hearings. In fact, when we go to testify, they're often invisible. One of the most disconcerting things to me is to walk in as an advocate and to testify into my microphone and to be looking at an empty seat. Or to a blank face that has no idea about the narrative I'm sharing with them. That's a secondary issue. So first of all, I will always be an advocate, whether I'm out here in Lafayette or hustling in the legislature with a special parking pass. The other issue that I've got with regard to what's going on in the legislature is when we have companies, billion-dollar companies that want to invest in Louisiana, right? But there's a very narrow political game that overarches the decisions that are being made within the legislative body. So let's say, for example, a particular NRA score is fairly low with one company. They won't be selected to invest in our economy. We do not need to play these games with the future of our state. I like to joke about how my 3 children, they're growing, they're becoming their own people. I do not want to be a FaceTime grandmother. My goal is to keep our young people invested in our state, to keep money in our state. When I worked at the Louisiana School in Natchitoches, public school for the best and the brightest of Louisiana, I would travel to 64 parishes, and I would see East Carroll Parish, West Carroll Parish. I would see East Feliciana, West Feliciana. I would drive around, I'd see Tensaw Parish. I'd see where time stood still. I drive down to South Louisiana, I go fishing offshore with my family and my friends, and again, it's like time stood still close to the Gulf of Mexico, which is very odd, because when you go out into the Gulf, you see a field of derricks and rigs and platforms. And so you got to wonder, what in the heck happened in the last 50 years, right? Where did the money go? And that was intimated earlier with other candidates. But as a legislator, my job is to pull back the facade of how everything's fine. You know, we look at our neighbors who are doing well and we think, oh, there's our prosperity, and we're going to reach that. We haven't done that in decades. In the meantime, our education scores are low, but not because we have poor teachers. We have fantastic teachers. And I'm a third-generation educator in this district, so I can testify to that. The problem is that we've got folks with very narrow interests that have been getting a little piece of what's been pumped out of that Gulf, and they're sending the rest out. Now it's even worse. The atrocity is the actual jobs are going out to Odessa, Texas, and other places. So imagine if we could go into a time machine and reel that clock back, right? 50 years ago, before we started giving out these incentives. We would have had a backbone. We could have been the technology center and hub of the nation. We could have pulled in other investors. We could have pulled in, we would have been the place where graduates from across the country thought, I want to move to Louisiana. Look at the culture there. Look at the music and the food, right? The temperature is so warm there. A little hotter these days. But the thing is, we would have been the place where people would have gone, right? Instead of, we are the front that folks were leaving. And it should be reversed. Just imagine if we would have had a little bit more of what that oil, that crude brought other folks. Now we're shifting again across the country and across the world. We still need to remember that oil brought us some level of prosperity, but everything is shifting, and we got to get on the front end of that. That's where we need to start investing. We need to start bringing our kids home. We need to start bringing making our legislators accountable. And that's when I just said, you know what, I've been an advocate for 6.5 years at the legislature, even longer as an educator, because P.S., teachers aren't advocates, right? Moms, teachers, this is what we're doing. So I'm excited to take this step. I've been trained, been doing this for a while, and have a really good support system. And I want to be your representative for 45, which starts just right across the street. Right? Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. Okay, do we have any questions for Ms. Gleason? Any specific questions for Ms. Gleason? Oh, we have one right over here. Wait for your microphone.
What does that make you a state representative do?
Well, I'll tell you. So when the legislative session begins, well, Senator Boudreaux's here. If I say anything wrong, correct me. But when the legislative session kicks off, your report, you get assigned to certain committees. And I really am curious about that too. I can't wait to find that out, how people get into what committees. But you get assigned to certain committees. You're working with other legislators across the state. So everyone, even though you're a representative of your district, you are working in committees with other folks, and you're really pushing for the best for Louisiana. The session goes on, hopefully for not too long. Hopefully there's no extended sessions. Hopefully there's no veto session in October for no reason other than to create some discord. And then you go on, and you end the session, and then you jump right back into your district, and you make sure that not your assistant, but you are available to your constituency, and you answer their questions, and you take that back to the next year.
That's a good question.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry. Please.
Yes. You mentioned something about your, what are you going to do as a representative to bring in renewable energies in this That's where Louisiana really should.
So the question is, what will I do in terms of promoting renewable energy
Yes.
in Louisiana? So number one, I'm not going to play the partisan game. I am running as a Democrat, but when it comes down to it, like mothers, like teachers, like y'all, we have to sit down, we have to deliberate, we have to negotiate, right? That partisan, the D and the R and the I and whatever else, we put that to the side. Now there is of course those folks who bring their stance into those discussions, and they're trying to promote for their own well-being and what they think their constituency wants. I mean, I hope that's what they're doing, but I don't think that's necessarily true. And so I'm just going to be, resolute and say, look, this is what my constituency says. This is what my friends in the oil business say. They are. The actual constituency is becoming more aware and learned about what's going on a national and a global level. So, I'm not going to have that sort of deaf ear to, what's going on around me. I'm going to bring in the newer perspective.
I guess that wasn't my thing. Okay.
I'm glad that you're asking me that.
Yes.
My question is, I've listened to everybody. Everybody is great on identifying problem. Okay. I'd like to hear something.
Okay.
Okay, I'm a voter. You see what I'm saying? Okay.
Well, you're here on a Saturday, sir.
Yes, ma'am. So, the issue about the law in Texas, I think, is ridiculous. The Department of Transportation purchased all of these houses up there on the freeway.
Right.
Through eminent domain. You don't have that anymore?
That's a really interesting perspective. I know people who have had their homes bought off of the freeway with that extended.
So, is it built into the financial portion? A kickback for Louisiana? I mean, you're coming in, you're taking out shrimp, so to speak.
Yeah.
So,
and toxifying them to some degree.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's my question.
Yeah.
What are some solutions?
I will tell you, even growing up, when I heard about the Shrimp and Petroleum Festival, I thought, that's a strange combination. Because I love my shrimp, and I do love having a car, but to think about eating and taking something that is in the same area, and then, when you go out in the Gulf, you can smell petroleum, you can smell that crude out there. It is not a pretty smell. And we've been fishing out there for decades. But there is legislation that has already been established that needs to go and be reconsidered, especially when there are threats to our fishermen and to the coastline, 100%. And that is at the legislature. You are absolutely right. And that is where that needs to be addressed.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Any specific questions?
Did I do okay? I was doing okay. I wasn't like, you have no critique. You're critiquing my dad's coaching. Okay. All right. I really appreciate your time. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Rhonda.